Hey there, beloveds. I'm back, and you know, I find that sharing from my life sometimes is the most effective. It kind of inspires my sharing because I'm like, oh, I should share about that. Um, it's funny, being in the love coaching business, Tantra, relationship business. I'm There's a part of me that's honestly really concerned because I do, I kind of observe things from a different perspective. Um, Having been educated like I'm basically a fusion of where I'm teaching NVC, which is like conscious communication skills, which is a whole movement worldwide. Um, that used to be called nonviolent communication, but we tend to call it like compassionate communication now. So a fusion of that movement with the 5 love languages, which is a book and online you can take a quiz to get your results, and with Tantra. So that's kind of like my niche. And it's funny because I find that when I was inspired recently to put myself back up on the dating apps, because sometimes you come at it with different energy and it just seems to be a different experience for me every time. And it's just always so fascinating to me and a little bit disturbing, I must say, because you can tell right away those who just don't communicate well. So I'm sort of left going, who are you? Why should I spend time with you? Do we have anything in common? So I just thought I would call out what I'm seeing because I think it's a little bit of an epidemic. And, I can see it through fresh eyes since, I'm in this biz. And I've noticed that, like, of course, I'm not really looking at the female ones. I'm just noticing the male ones. So I guess I can give feedback to you guys, basically, which is it's almost like this cultural thing where you guys feel the need to hide. And it might be that you do have a girlfriend, or that you are kind of, wanting someone on the side. There's always that possibility. Someone's just looking for an affair on the side or something like that. But I sense that it's deeper than that. I sense that it's a cultural thing with men, and it's totally understandable where we've kind of almost learned to hide or learned to not stand out because we don't want to get the attention of the powers that be that might then target us or something. It might be completely subconscious or it might come from a past life, but I just noticed this interesting trend where a lot of the men, I don't feel, are presenting themselves with their best foot forward. So there's a lot of really just either no bio or very little bio where it doesn't really hook me as a female. Whoa. um, like you want to stand out, hopefully, I would think, or put your best foot forward. So that she's like, ooh, yeah, I'm really, he sounds so interesting. I'd like to get to know him. But, instead they're just saying things like, oh, I like tacos and sunsets. And, we're used to getting the typical, here in Hawaii, we get the typical thing, oh, I love to surf and hike and play outdoors. And it doesn't really make that man stand out to me as unique, I guess, is what I'm saying. Um, to me, it would seem logical to kind of put a twist in there of your personality or something that's just uniquely you. Like, oh, yeah, you may be all those basic things, but, oh, and by the way, I like to read sci-fi, or I love sci-fi movies, or, something specific to make the person stand out, because otherwise they're kind of forgettable. The pictures also are a lot of times not really the best foot forward. I'm just kind of intrigued by the whole thing because the hiding comes out by them wearing sunglasses. in a lot of the pictures. And so I'm like, we can't see your eyes. How are we supposed to know who you are, what you look like? Or there's a lot of photos where the face is just not very well, it's like so small you can't really see it, or they're doing some sport, where you just can't really make out who they are. And I almost feel like it's somewhat intentional. Like, I literally, there's guys with, like, they'll have their back to the camera and it's just some side shot where you couldn't really distinguish them from any other guy necessarily. And then they have sunglasses on, or there's just all these different ways that you guys do it. And I just am like, do I really want someone who's hiding, who like really doesn't want to reveal himself? Maybe you're not confident, or maybe you have something to hide. Like, where else? What else are you hiding? So it's just not a good sign. Like, I'm surprised that they actually don't coach in that a little bit better. Maybe like the sites should be maybe require that you have a headshot where we can see your eyeballs. And then a body shot so that we get a sense of your body type. Those are just kind of basic things, but it just seems like a lot of that goes out the window. And I'm thinking, my experiences lately, and maybe this is happening for a reason, because then it gets me to talk about it, right? And because I take these things for granted. I am in the field. I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've done a lot of research and training in this field. And so I take for granted that there's certain basics that go into a relationship. And like, I had this great first date. He's younger than I am, which seems to be the case these days. But then I kind of come up against this millennial situation where and I have a theory too about it. So, but we had a great first date, but then the second date, he like stood me up, and he didn't mean to, like, he overcommitted. He wasn't able to make it happen. But then I was like, ooh, okay, so I'm obviously not a priority, and these other things were more important to you, and you made a really bad impression on me on the second date. And it's just is very confusing, because it was like the opposite of the first date. And I get that a lot. I have that experience quite a bit, where it's like just mixed messages. And I know I have an older gentleman friend who tells me that guys lie a lot. Like, it's part of the culture to lie about, where you're not really expressing how you really feel, or you're having to suppress your anger a lot, or feel like you're having to bite your tongue, with women, because you just don't want to rock the boat, I guess. But it does send a lot of mixed messages, and I kind of had, a message. I sent him a message, and I was just like, listen, like, some basic relationship skills are that you're trustworthy, that you're a man of your word, that you show up when you say you're going to show up. Otherwise, it totally undermines trust. And, I was very hurt by that, because I really liked him, and like, we were off to a great start. And that doesn't happen every day, because, it takes someone extraordinary, I'm going to say, to match with me, because I am usually older than them, it seems like, these days. And I've got a lot more experience and skill and education and all that. And especially since I'm in the relationship field, if they're not good communicators, I just don't have the tolerance for it, Yeah, so there was a lot of that happened today, where I had to kind of remind a few of the men that were texting me, like, you're not being clear. Like, who are you? Like, I have several so-and-sos in my life. Like, which one are you? Because you're acting like I know you. And, I have fans, I have clients, and then, these dating apps. So anyway, I just thought I would mention that, I kind of had to say, gosh, these are basic relationship skills to have. And if you can't be trustworthy, or be true to your word, or put me as a priority because we're starting something new, then I just was like, this isn't going to work. I should bow out now, because, you know, if I can't count on you to follow through, um, or that I'm a priority in your life, and it's just why even start? And so anyway, it's just strange. It feels like today I did a lot of, well, this week I did a lot of coaching around just like basic relationship skills, because in the beginning of a relationship, whether it's a friendship or employee boss relationship or anything, you have to go through this process of building trust. And if that trust gets betrayed right off the bat or immediately, it's a really bad sign. Like, those are red flags. And the biggest thing you want to do is earn a woman's trust if you're really interested in her, because one of the big issues is that we don't feel safe. Most women have a whole laundry list of reasons why they don't trust men. And because, sometimes you guys will just say anything just to get what you want. And it's really kind of taught us women to be guarded. And, we really want to feel like we're in, that this is a decent person that we're trying to get to know, and that there's not a hidden agenda or whatever. But, it's funny how, these things that show up in this modern world around ghosting and just poor communication, and they'll just disappear, or just not communicate well enough so that the other person is at ease. Like, if you make a mistake, then it's best to apologize and make up for it right away to remedy the situation. And like in this particular case, he I don't know, I didn't really feel like he did that, I guess. And so I was like, God, he must not really want to continue. It must not be a priority, or his communication's poor enough that he just doesn't know what to say. I don't know. I don't really get it, because to me these are no-brainer things to do, and yet it doesn't seem to be obvious to a lot of people out there. So that's why I'm talking about it. So I have a theory about something, which is, in this modern world where the internet is a big part of things, which it wasn't until I was in junior high, and actually it wasn't until high school that it really took. So, there's so much more of the internet out there where people can have access to things, and in this case I'm going to talk about sex. And I think men, where if porn is part of your life, which it's probably a good percentage of men out there access porn occasionally or regularly or daily, who knows. But there's an aspect of that I think is transferring into real life that is doing us a disservice. So what I mean by that is, with this weird ghosting behavior, lack of good communication, to me, it's a sign of a man who has porn in his life where, there is no communication going on. He's not having to work at, proving himself in front of that camera, because he's just watching. And he can leave it in a moment's notice, right in the middle of the whole video. He can just take off and ghost the video that he's watching. So I think that my theory is that it's translating to real life, because men are doing this weird behavior I've noticed, and it's with my girlfriends and it's just like part of this modern dilemma that we're in between masculine and feminine that desperately needs to heal, because this is not going to get us anywhere. It totally undermines and betrays, at least the feminine in this case. I don't hear as many stories on the other side of this happening, but as far as what I am witnessing and experiencing is that men, I think, are like, they'll ghost, or they'll get what they want and then they'll just disappear, or they are really great and then not so great the second date, like I just described. And I think it's part of that culture where you guys are used to just being able to flip a switch and get, turn on eroticism online, watch it. You can ditch it anytime you want if it's not doing as much for you, or you're not going to be necessarily loyal to one porn star unless you really like her. But the whole idea of like almost like women are objects and replaceable. But the thing is when you transfer it into life and you're like burning bridges and breaking hearts because you got what you wanted, or you just don't have the communication skills, or the connection skills. Like when you connect with a woman, if you have kissed her or had any kind of touch and sexual exchange, there's a bond that's happening there with her. Now, you may not be taking it seriously, but it definitely affects her if you just take off and she's like, what the hell happened? Like, why wouldn't you want to continue a good thing? Oh, because you can just go to porn and have a different girl every night. It's not really serving us. And I think that's what's happening. That's my theory. Because I know that porn in that realm is so prevalent, and you literally could watch a different woman every night doing something different and erotic that most women probably don't do or don't feel comfortable doing unless they're getting paid lots of money like that porn star, and then most of them wouldn't do it. And the fact that you can just switch it off whenever you want to, and you're not really like getting entrained in considering that other person on the other end of the video that you're watching, like, oh, like you're just taking basically, and you're not really having a connection with her personally. You're just watching her, and then you can turn her off when you're done. So that's not going to translate into real life so well. So I just want to bring that awareness to you, because some of you, many of you, might be watching porn, and this is the downside of it, because it tends to make you feel like that's how life is. And porn is a very kind of misleading illusion. It's not real. And those women are only doing that because they're getting paid very well. Otherwise, it's not in their nature to be performing like that. And most of the porn that I have witnessed is not really taking care of the woman, honestly. It seems like it's more about the man, because most porn is made for men. And then I think it makes you feel like, oh, it's all about me, when really you kind of have to make it all about the woman, because otherwise why would she want to engage with you? Because she's been most likely wounded by men in many ways who use or abuse and don't really make it worth her while. And there's this whole distrust towards men because of that. And especially if she has been raped or sexually abused, then there's even more walls up, So you have to prove yourself to her that you're worth her time, that you're safe, that you're not going to just ditch her or use her, or like you do your porn stars. I'm so sad that I have to bring this message, but it's important and it's true. I think it's what's going on. So anyway, I'm going to call it out so that you are aware of this phenomenon, because if you're aware of it, you can be like, ooh, yeah, I'm kind of treating her like a porn star, like, oh, discard. You can't just discard people, not without burning bridges. And you got to have basic like relationship skills if you want to get anywhere. Otherwise, you're not going to get the true intimacy that you so long for deep down. And that porn is only going to keep you occupied for so long. It's not a replacement. It's not a replacement for the real deal, because you want true deep intimacy with someone. Ultimately, I mean, even great sex is not a replacement for real love. Like sex can be great when it's great, but it's still nothing compared to being in love with someone and sharing on that level. It takes it to a whole nother level, and you will never be able to have that as long as like sex is, and porn and all that is like a priority over love. So if you really want love, you're going to have to be the lover. And that means you're going to have to understand women on a certain level that you maybe don't have yet. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm sharing. To bring awareness around all this, because it is a little disturbing to witness this, and it makes me feel like, God, like most men are just not even close to what I'm looking for. I need a man who can match me in communication skills and the ability to be intimate and relationship skills, and, you know, who's tantric if he's going to truly match me, and, you know, just have his act together and all this stuff. It's a tall order, but I'm that, so, you know, he's got to be that too. And yeah, and I think it just ultimately everyone wins, because it makes it the relationships more sustainable when they have all that going for them. If they don't have that going for them, especially if the communication skills are off, there's no way. And I just feel like, oh, this is so sad for me to say this, but I meet so many people who I consider to be not partnerable because their communication skills are so poor. And what happens is it just ends up meaning that if someone is a low communicator, then it leaves the other person, what it tends to do, this is the cycle that tends to happen. When one or both are not good communicators, then one or both are making up stories as to what's really happening, and that may not be what's happening at all. It's just the one or both are not communicating well enough so that the other one knows what's going on. Like, I literally had to reach out to this guy and say, what happened? Like, why would you do that? Why would you burn that bridge, like, right away? Like, he went to all this trouble to rematch with me so that he didn't lose that on the app. And then, you know, and then he just completely dropped the ball. And it's like, that makes no sense. Unless he just knows he's not a true match for me and he's kind of just sabotaging it, like unconsciously or something, which I totally think could happen. But at any rate, yeah, it'll be nice when we reach a point where we're more sustainable in relationship, because I've met a lot of people that either their communication skills are not good enough, or they have a personality disorder, like they might have an attachment disorder, like anxiety attachment disorder, or bipolar, or they might have borderline personality disorder. And you can't really have a great relationship if those things are running the show. You've got to learn how to manage those things and get skills so that you know how to deal with those things when they show up, because if you don't, you're literally dragging your partner through the mud, and they're like, this is not normal. You know, because I figured one out. I had a borderline personality person who didn't know they had it, and I'm the one that figured it out. I studied it. I was like, this is totally not normal. Like, because there's this flip that happens, and it was like almost two personalities. And I was like, you need to go to the clinic where they, you know, help people about this. There's one in LA, and you need to learn how to manage this condition you have, because otherwise there's no way in hell you're going to be partnerable. You can't be Jekyll and Hyde and have it work out long term, you know. We almost just have to laugh about it because it's so common, and yet it just wreaks so much havoc and so much drama. Anyway, I hope that's helpful to some of you. I don't come really from a place of judgment. It's also really more concern, and I just wanted to bring the awareness up around it so that if you relate to anything that I said, that you can seek it out and you know, like, get some skills to manage whatever it is that, you know, I was at a point where I was like, yeah, I need to get more communication skills, because like most families, my dad was a minimalist, my mom was just an average, you know, communicator, who's kind of naive, I think, and wasn't real privy on being able to communicate what she needed to at the time, and at least not always. And, you know, had kind of loose boundaries, I think. And, you know, I remember I had a roommate, and it somehow really clicked, like, oh my God, if I really study communication skills, this is going to make all my relationships in my life better. I don't care what kind of relationship it is going to improve. And if I know how to communicate well, everything gets better and improves and gets smoother and easier. And now I feel very confident. Of course, I've been doing this for years now, but it's in my bones to the point where, and I'm not perfect, but if there's a difficult conversation, I don't have any problem bringing it up in a way that we can discuss it, get through to the other side of it. I know how to bring it up, whereas before, I remember when I was young, I was like, I don't even know how to bring this up because I'm angry about it, I'm triggered, and I don't want to like cut his head off, but that was so not cool. And yet I didn't have the skills yet as to how to use I statements and make it about me and what I need, and just kind of leave them out of it actually and say, this is what I need. And if you're not able to do that, then I need to walk away, kind of thing. So anyway, beloveds, let me know what you think. Let me know if you're finding this, if you're having like similar experiences as my friends and I are having, and maybe what you might have a take on it too that I didn't think of. So yeah, please join the conversation, and thanks for showing up. And if you feel led to and you're getting quality or value from my YouTubes, then please think about being a patron so that I can continue to reach more people, because I would like to transfer my energy onto YouTube and helping the whole world with this stuff, as opposed to seeing clients. But right now, clients are what pay my bills. And but if I had enough patrons, then I could, devote myself to this channel and to all of you. So that's kind of a dream of mine. All right, well, aloha for now.